Many blessings be upon you. Bomatum, thank you. Bomatum, thank you. Bomatum, thank you. Hang hang katu, so be it. I hope.
All right, greetings, peace, Taino T. I'm here with Roman. I'm here at Roman's home, and I'm just here, just building on Taino Heritage. So I just want to say, give thanks, for giving me this opportunity to have this discussion with you again. And what I would like to start is, what was the first thing that got you to connect with your Taino heritage as you were coming up?
Okay. First, Peter, welcome to my Bojillo. Nice to have you here. Thank you. My name is Roman Guaraguaorix Taino de Quisqueya. Both my mom and dad were born and raised in Quisqueya. I was born in Quisqueya, Baitoa, it's a small region in the Cibao region of Quisqueya, and came here when I was 5 years old. I was pretty much raised here in Brooklyn. I come from a family of 9 children, and my parents come from pretty big families too. My father's side, like 17 kids, and my mom's side like 12 kids. So a lot of cousins, a lot of family, a lot of Bojillos, within my family. The question about how I got into this Taino movement, finding the Taino-ness within me and my family, pretty much, I remember, think back with my grandma, my grandparents in particular, but my grandma would always be smoking tobacco in the house. She lived with us here in the U.S. for some time, and just seeing her go. Used to go to the corner to the home and smoke with her tobacco, kind of like in solemn silence. I was young, but I just remember that first connection with the tobacco and having this old woman smoking tobacco in the house. Then come to a little later on, I went back to Quisqueya when I was 12 years old, and when I went back there with 2 of my brothers and my mom, and then there was when I started seeing the way the people were living. I realized that I come from the mountains. I realized that, I didn't know that being here, a young kid coming here, being in the city, and then going back and wow, we're not city folk. We're from the mountains, and seeing everybody the way they planted, and in particular, I remember a lot of tobacco being present. Too young to understand the whole thing, so it wasn't until much later on in my life. I always felt, I guess, some of us, we feel this. I was always attracted and felt attracted to nativeness, whether it be cowboy and Indian movies or native people. They just called me until I realized myself that I was native. It didn't happen right away for me. I'll be honest, I wasn't brought up in these Taino ways. My family was somewhat Christians, so really it came alive within me, and the Taino waking up in my family, and going back when I was like 30 years old. Going back and seeing that firsthand back home, and by then I have met people like George Estevez and some of the people in the early part of the movement, the Taino movement, and that was a powwow. The powwow. That's where a lot of us meet, right? At the powwow. And the powwow was I was questioned. Hey, brother, what kind of Indian are you? What's your nation?
Right.
And like that was in over 25 years ago, and I couldn't pinpoint. I didn't know. Although we were brought up in a way of raised that way, as far as at home, by the way My mom was a curandera, you know, so she was always making remedies and always making things in the house, and tobacco was always used in my house, you know. And those are the things that I knew, but it was like everyday life, you know, so everyday life. So it was Taino, but I didn't identify as Taino. And it took a little while until I got really my mom and my grandparents to share that information with me.
Oh, that's powerful.
So when did it happen? You know, when going back home and having an understanding now of this Taino ways, and actually my grandma, somewhere Indio, are we native? You know, we put that question back in the powwow, and she really didn't share that information with me right away. It was more like a denial, and it was protecting, but she denied it, and so did my mom. Until I brought my mom to an exhibit one year in Taino Museum, you know, Museo de Barrio, and it was a Taino exhibit there, and I brought my mom there, and I met a lot of people there, other Taino people, and my mom started seeing for the first time what it was all about. I guess she remembers something from her childhood, you know. And then going back home again in Quisqueya was when I started really probing my mom and my grandparents, and so it was my grandmother that told me, that honestly told me, first person, came to me, and she had a story with you. She called me and said, "My abuela, somos Taino," and she looked at my grandpa, and my grandpa kind of looked at her and was like, you know, like, go ahead, take him, tell him. And it was time. And they shared it with me. They told me, yeah, we're Taino, but don't tell nobody. No le digan a nadie. And so that was, I guess, the first happiness or introduction. And when she shared that with me, she cried. Because, you know, she cried, it was tears of joy. Because she cried because she was happy that she let it out, you know. And I kind of felt bad, you know. I felt bad. I felt sad because it was something that, you know, something to be happy about. Why we're hiding it?
Right.
And it really had to do with protecting the ways, protecting the family. When my mom was raising us, it was her during the time in Quisqueya or the Trujillo era. So it was not a time to be Indian in the country, you know. So they were protecting us.
Yeah, that's good. So the next question I want to, you know, we can expound on is, you know, I know you're very aware of tobacco. If you can, you know, just to expound on that.
Okay. Well, tabaco, you know, one of the we say the word today, tobacco. I really got my family, like I was sharing earlier, they were tobacco farmers, you know. My grandfather had hundreds of acres back home, and when he was alive, and he had over 200, 300 of it grown of tobacco. And I remember being there when I was 12 years old and smelling tobacco everywhere in the mountain, seeing it, the people harvesting it, and my grandfather first introduced me to this here, which is andullo. Andullo is tobacco from Quisqueya, and they kind of put it together in a way of wrapping the leaves, and this is a small piece of a very long piece when it's fully put together. It's about 12 foot long, so there's the butt end of it. And my grandfather first turned me on to tobacco. I was 12 years old, first time I smoked it. And I'm going to smoke some now. I'm here sharing some tobacco. I'm in the mood to smoke tobacco right now. But it's in my family for many generations. You know, my grandfather growing tobacco, and his father, his father's father. So it goes back at least 4 or 5 generations that I've known of in my family. Andujo, and my grandfather used to use it for many things, different remedies in different ways. So that's how tobacco came into my life. I was 12 years old. I didn't understand what was happening. He said, give me a pipe. He was like, ahumate, ahumate. And he asked me to puff on it. And I remember turning green, throwing up, getting sick. And I didn't quite understand. Everybody was laughing, and, seeing the little kid getting all choked up. And I didn't quite understand it until I went back as an adult. When I had my children, I went back as an adult. And my grandfather was in the same spot, under the same guayaba tree, and came up to me with a pipe, said, ahumate, and told me the same thing. And by then I already had a little understanding, and I was knowing these native ways, and kind of like I started putting two and two together. And this is what he was trying to tell me, way back then when I was a kid. He said, you smoke this tobacco. In Spanish, he would say, ahumate que va a ver los abuelos. He used the word abuelos.
Okay.
Ancestors. And that's the connection I've made with it. And my grandfather then, at that point, didn't have that much tobacco growing there at home. Just a small little plot of it. He said, this is a lot of hard labor. Nobody here wants to do this no more. And everybody's working down in the factories now. And the young people that want to carry this on. And he gave me, wish I had it with me, but I'll show you maybe a little later, a bag full of seeds, of tobacco seeds. And he says, you take these seeds and you do what's right with them. And I was like, well, I don't know if I could grow this back home in my backyard. But I started sharing the seeds.
Okay.
That's how I connected with that tobacco, making my grandfather's vision come true. He says, this tobacco needs to grow, he says. So I give those seeds and give that tobacco to different people. Throughout the time, when I go to meet with different elders or people, so that tobacco, my grandfather's seeds is actually growing right now in Puerto Rico, Boriquen. It's growing up in Canada. It's growing in Guatemala, it's growing in Mexico, it's growing in Hawaii, it's growing in Colorado now. These are different places where my grandfather's tobacco is growing right now. So I'm happy about that. Tobacco is a way of, for me, connecting with my ancestors.
Okay.
That's for me. It's used in many different ways. I've recently done a workshop on tobacco because my grandfather keeps picking my brain, I guess, and giving me ways. So I've taken everything that I've learned from them, from my grandparents, and then also from what I've studied, and used in many different ways for protection in general. So tobacco is a good protector. You see, my grandma, what she was doing back then, she was blessing the house. She was kind of doing a cleansing in the house. I didn't know that until later on. But that's what she was doing. She was smoking those four corners of the walls and doing protection in the house, Kind of like what people do with smudge.
Right.
Use tobacco.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I want to ask you on is the language, because I know you're very fluent with the language, and I know you've been studying for some time on the language. So if you would like to give your take on it.
Yeah, the language is something that, let me put this tobacco down a little too strong. I'm going to start getting hiccups, so smoke it. Well, yeah, I'm very much interested in studying, and I try to use the language. The more words I learn, I try to apply them and use them. And I have different books, different ways. There's some online dictionaries. there's some books here that I have here on this table here that you know I use, and I also have copies, right? A lot of copies of books that you cannot get anywhere that I've acquired throughout the years. Got to libraries and had them copied. Some friends of mine have given me some, and we share them like that. And my belief, the whole thing with the language, is something that's ongoing. We didn't have a written language. Taino people, we didn't have a written language.
Right.
So what's recorded is being worked on constantly to try to figure it out. So what the people, the chronicles, the way they recorded Pané and La Casas and different people that were recording the language back then, or words, it was certain things like the dialect is different, so they didn't have our dialect, so they pronounced words differently, so
Right.
they spelled them differently.
Right.
So it's something that we today look at our cousins or different sister languages, Garifuna, Locono, Carib, which is Kalingo, and we look at those different languages, the Arawakan languages, and try to filter it all together, right? And try to see which ones are closer related to our words.
Right.
I'm working on hopefully to create some type of an online or like data, some baselines for myself, my Yukayeke, so we could use. So I've taken it upon myself with the help of a few other people now to try to take all these dictionaries that are out there and put them in one source. And it's a big undertaking. And but what's great about it is that when you do this, and anybody can do it. Anybody looking at this video right now, use the dictionaries that are out there, and use the language. So, in the process of doing this, you find new words that you didn't know. Maybe you weren't interested in knowing what it meant. So you go ahead and find new words. And I try to make simple little prayers, simple little things to say to people to practice it. So, for example, I call you and say to Peter, Peter, Taca Guaraguaorix, Seneco Cacona Guabojillo, Guamo Guaraguao, Guajequetigüey. So I left you a message, right?
Right.
You gotta decipher it.
Right.
And I tend to do that a lot with people, with some of my friends, so you can learn the language, man.
Go back and study.
Go back and
Right.
study. So basically I just, we didn't have telephones, right? So the Guamo was our way of communicating. So we didn't have telephones then, we have telephones today.
Right.
So what do I use to fill in the word telephone? Guamo. I say, Guamo Guaraguao, like blow the conch shell to me. Use the telephone. You know what I'm saying? So, we didn't have telephone back then, so what word do we use for telephone today? Line of communication. So I always, I tell that to people, like, Guamo Guaraguao Hequetigüey. In one day. Call me tomorrow, or one day. And I just try to use it like that. I try to apply the little words that I know. You said before, like, I'm a little fluent, and what is fluent? I guess when we're speaking it with each other, because one person can't be fluent by himself.
Right. Right.
So we need to help each other.
Right.
And I try to do that with my children. I try to do that with my kids. It's really important that we pass it on. So recently, my daughter had asked me to help her with Spanish, and I'll be honest, my Spanish is a little Spanglish right now, because, a lot of my relatives have passed on, and then I don't live in my mom's house no more, and with something that we didn't grow up here practicing, other than speaking with our aunties or our mom. We spoke English to each other when we learned in school here. So anyway, she asked me to help her with Spanish, and I said, I'll do that to the best of my ability, but I really want to help her with the Taino, and that's what I'm hoping that we can do. Help her with her Spanish, but then as a trade-off, we're going to practice Taino together.
Right.
And she knows a lot. She knows a lot of words, but we don't speak it regularly.
Right.
Because there's still a lot of words that, hard to say, or we don't know. Like, hey, can you come down from your room? How do we say that Taino?
Right.
I say, Wariko, Huluka. Come down, Sophia. That's her name, her Taino name. Come, Wariko. Huluka, I could do that. I don't know how to say come down the stairs. We didn't have stairs.
Right.
So, it's an ongoing thing with the language.
Right, I agree.
But we do have resources, and they're out there. And a lot of people, ask. A lot of people ask all the time for translation and things. There's a great, that I love that group that they put together, Taino Revitalization, Language Revitalization.
Uh-huh.
There's different people that put, the word of the day. Another group, Taino. Taino family, There's different resources out there where people put the word of the day, or people ask for different words, and it makes us, the people that are kind of like a little bit studying it, a little more in tune with it, to post or share that information, that knowledge, because, education and language is knowledge, with tobacco. So, with the language is something that it takes practice. So, I try to make like little songs. I like singing songs, Taino songs. So, I try to make up songs. There's some songs that are already out there. Maybe I change them a little. I add some different words to them. And that's one way that I do it for myself. And, also just trying to, what's out there already, try to, this is a very popular prayer that people, they say the Lord's Prayer in Taino, right? So, it's a simple little picture frame of the prayer that somebody gave me many years ago, right? And this is the Guaquilla Baba prayer, right? So, there's one thing of having it, but then looking at it and just, reciting it, right? So, what it says there, right? And I will probably just read it as I know it, and just roll with it, instead of trying to do it as a teaching right now. I'm going to do Taino Guaquilla Baba. Guaquilla Baba Turetoka, Guamikeni, Guamikaraya Gwe. Wariko Guaquilla, Taino Ti. Bomatum, Pusika, Guaquilla, Parayukubia, Ahe Kasabi, Huracan Wa, Maboya Wa, Yuki Yuhan, Yosha Naboria Daka Hankatu. Right? So that's it. Just read it, make sense of it, and use it, and applying it. There's some books. People are constantly asking me for different ways. One of the hard things about these Taino languages is that you have the Taino words first. This one, in this case, is the Taino Spanish, right, dictionary.
Right.
Called Palabras Indios de las Antillas, right? And by Rodolfo Domingo Cabricio. Now, this is a book that it has a lot of words, But you have to, in order to find a word, we don't have the English word first that we're looking for.
Mm.
So what we need to do is create these dictionaries like I'm trying to create, where it has English word first, followed by a Spanish word, and then the Taino word. So if we're looking for it, it can help people in different ways to find that information. So I have my daughter received an award a few years ago at this event, the Taino Awards. And when she received that award, she wanted to do her acceptance speech in Taino. And she wrote out a whole little cue card, and we did it in Taino.
Okay.
So things like that, a little speech, an acceptance speech, thanking people, a simple way of just using the language that we can start and not use, I'd say, ta'i karaya, right? Good evening to people when I talk to them in the daytime. Ta'i gwei, good day. I just, my mom, today I always got, I say, Bibi. I call her Bibi, and there's a lot of Taino words that that have made their way to English dictionaries, Spanish dictionaries, and they look at them like Spanish words, but they're indigenous words, they're Taino words.
Right.
We also have those dictionaries, right, that already exist in other languages that take our words. And they borrowed them or used them because they didn't have that. They didn't have a batata, for example, the sweet potato, and the hamaca, and huracan, hurricane, hamaca, the hammock. So all these words that people probably been using or know their whole life and don't even know they're Taino. But then when you find out the Taino word, like, oh my God, that's a Taino word. I've been sharing that word or speaking that word.
Mm.
And so we have to keep dissecting these different people's languages that have our language in them and own them, take them back. I can't wait for the day where me, and Peter, here speaking fluently with each other. And I'm really looking forward to that. I really enjoy working with language, and I continue to either do songs in different ways. So, for example, I have this song, Tao Matia. Matia means morning, right? Tao Matia, that means good morning. And the bihiriti is the dove, the morning dove. So, they say that Bushika is to bring. And Seneko Kakona, as many people say, many blessings. Nietzsche is to the heart. Some simple words, I turn it to a song, right? And a song is like, goes like this. So, the song is, Tamatia bihiriti, Tamatia bihiriti, Tamatia bihiriti, Bushika Seneko Kakona Nietzsche. Bushika Seneko Kakona Nietzsche. Tamatia bihiriti. And it goes down like that. And it's a couple words, man. Put them together. And saying good morning to that morning dove in that morning, bringing many blessings to our hearts, right? And the other song is a tobacco song that I have, and it talks about the Minan coming down the canoe and bringing the tobacco in the pipe, which is the cachimba. And that's like, and then honoring Yaya, right, Creator. So from the celestial sky, Yaya sends down the Minan, right? And comes to the water in his canoe. So we know the word canoe, canoa. We know the word tabacu, tobacco. We know the word cachimba, the pipe, right? And he's coming, Guarico, right? Ya 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 ya. Guarico de Minancano. Why? He's coming down the canoe. Guarico de Minancano. Wa 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 wa. Guarico de Minan tabacu cachimba. He brings the tobacco to the pipe. And Guarico Tabacu Achiano, he brings the pipe to the south. And the following directions, Coromo, right? Racuno, Sobaico, Ataveira, Yayaguature. It's like a 4-direction song, right? So I made that song up for the tobacco, and I use it all the time. So simple song with simple words. It's a song that a lot of people sing, Bomatu Matabe, which is a very popular song, written by Taino brother, I believe Mucaro is his song. That's his song from many years ago. And, that song is just like 5 or 6 words, Bomatum, thank you. Atabe, Earth Mother. Daka, I am. Naboria, Atabeira. Bomatum, Atabe, Bomatum. Like that. Daka, Naboria, Atabeira. Daka, Naboria, Atabeira. Couple words. That song is sung probably all over the world today. It's an old song, it's traveled. And hopefully these songs and prayers, simple words that we can use to create. Ika Mateo, another one to use, songs with Taino words. Edward Sereno, using songs with Taino words. So there's people out there creating the music and the songs with the vibration of a Taino language. And you can do the same, just by putting those couple words together and doing a little melody, continue like that. So with the language, that's what I wanted to share on that. There's a lot of good people with Brother Rene and I know Peter himself and a lot of other brothers and sisters. Sister from Jamaica, Diane, and many people that are working to kind of fine tune this language, Every now and then in my family, I may give like a Taino name out, right? And give that name out. I tell my nephew, like the other day he got a tattoo, and I said, don't put your name on tattoo, because the language is evolving.
Right. Right.
It might not mean that in 5 years from now, as we're trying to figure this out. So, you want to put an image, that's fine, but don't put no Taino words. That's my suggestion, because we're constantly working on it.
Right.
So, yeah. So that's what I got to say on the language, it's something that you, me, we all need to utilize the tools that are available. There's books out there. There's a couple of dictionaries online. It's not that who's right and who's wrong, because we have a lot of that going on.
Right.
Right? Who's right and who's wrong about a word. The thing is to utilize them and use them and feel good about the language and feel good about using it, So I'm not saying that those songs or the words that I'm saying are right, but it's the word that I chose to use.
But it's the process to recall, to connect with your heritage.
Exactly. So I remember there's, like my name is Guaraguaorix, and some people would say it's Guaraguao with a W. I said, well, that may be what your grandmother said, but my grandmother called me Guaraguao. So I choose to go with the G.
Okay.
So there's different ways, phonetics and different ways of the, who puts a Y versus the I, who puts, a E versus the I, a W versus the G, all that. Maybe someday somebody in our future generation will fine tune that, But there are many dialects, even in the English language, the Spanish language, Taino also we have different dialects. So it may be said different ways in different lands, different islands, but we're coming now, putting the puzzle together that there's something similar in them. And that's what we got to focus on, what's similar and not what's different, right? I want to leave you with that.
Okay, yeah, I think that was a good take. But I'm looking up here on your wall, and I see a lot of artwork. So, I think, I would like, if a good opportunity, if you can share your story with your artwork.
Yeah, these paintings, mostly my painting on the wall here, that you'll see from here and going down that way, right? And how the art, I never really seen myself as an artist, I'll be honest. I doodled a lot, as a kid. Instead of paying attention to the teacher, I would doodle, A few years ago, in 2010, I'm an art handler, so I handle art, and my profession, I'm certified to hang art. And I learned that in taking a course, art handling course, and in that, one of the things I had to do was I had to come up with a painting. And the teacher said, you need to paint something. And I'm like, well, I didn't come here to paint. I came here to learn how to hang it. He said, yeah, well, if you're going to appreciate art, you need to do a painting. And then Peter's going to hang your painting, you're going to hang Peter's painting, and so on and so forth in the class. He said, you got to paint something. So I did this painting way far in the end over there. You see at the do hole, right over there in the end. See a picture of the do hole?
Right.
So that picture was my first painting.
Wow.
And so I did that painting, and then I liked it. I had fun with it. And then a little personal level for myself. I got hit with a virus in 2010, and it kept me homebound, and I couldn't really walk, and my hand was shaking like this, and I had a lot of time to spend on my own over here in my house. And a friend of mine picked me up one day and brought me pearl paint, which is not there no more in the city. Brought me the pearl paint and bought a bunch of paint, bunch of brushes, bunch of canvases, and he said, "This is how you're gonna help heal yourself. You're gonna paint." And a really good brother, friend of mine, and so I started creating. I started painting, and I've given some paintings away. I exhibited already in several places. In fact, I'm going to be exhibiting in a few weeks, and in October. So, so what do they all mean? They all, if you look at them closely, they're all Taino. That's what I try to paint. I try to paint different Taino images from the glyphs, from the caves, from the pictographs that we have, and some of them creations of my versions of whatever it is that I'm painting at that moment. Like this painting here, I know Peter likes this one a lot.
Right.
This painting here is Taino people's the vault, which has the celestial sky and the earth plane in Kauai Bay, So, and then the painting right above that is a painting of someone in a cave having a vision during one of the ceremonies, So all of them represent something in Taino culture. And having a good time, painting. I really like it, so I guess I'm an artist. People like the work. I like color, vibrant colors, I use my mediums that I use are a couple different things. I use acrylic paint primarily, but I also use different mediums. And some of them will have sand, it has shell. I put stuff on the canvas. I mix stuff with my paint. I mix waters from different places, from the islands. And some of the water that I mix is water from Boriquén, from a certain river or lake, or from Quisqueya. I take those water home and I use it in my paintings. I use tobacco in my paintings, and so I use the different mediums like that. I'm working with bring that part of the earth into the painting. And I'm going to start soon. I got a bunch of glass, stained glass, which is a series I'll be working on. Which I'm going to give my little shot of mosaic art. A little shot of mosaic art. I have this glass from a church around the corner that they did construction on it. They knocked down a whole building. And they held a stained glass, so I went and picked up a stained glass. And I'm going to be working pretty soon with that, with stained glass and doing different Taino images using stained glass from a church. So that should be interesting. Look out for that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really, these paintings you have is very, very powerful. You know.
Well, we have, images there about Taveira. We have, through art, different forms of art. There's a lot of people doing art in the Taino movement, in the Taino resurgence. There's people crafting incredible things with wood, making the drums, the rattles, and it's an expression of our ancestors. So although it's contemporary, it's being done by somebody that has Taino hands. So it is Taino art. And us as artisanos, it's really nice for people that appreciate that somebody, our art gives us an opportunity to talk about our culture. Because it's something that people don't know. You're not looking at a standing Indian on a horse,
right,
war paint, holding a shield, This is art that brings the eye to like, what is that? What is that image? What is this image here? Is it a woman? Yeah, it's got parts of a woman, but is it a frog? And it goes on for us to be able to share about our people. And that's what I like about art, whether it's through spoken word, through painting, craftsmanship with the wood and carvings, that when people come and look at it, if you're the artist next to it, people look at it twice, and it gives you an opportunity to explain what it is and talk about your culture. And that we exist, that we're here, that we're still here, that we never left. That we're awake today, that we know who we are as Taino people. And that's what myself and many others have been doing for over 25 years, here. And it has been going on for longer than that. But now, going forward, it's important for the youth. So, whether it's art, poetry, there's a lot of people doing poetry. A lot of people doing open mics and being the poetic, sharing their ancestors' pain. So I hear a lot of ancestral trauma being recovered. I hear healing. I hear those things when I hear like the youth, a person sharing the poetry or doing the artwork. We're helping to heal old wounds that are not ours necessarily in this body, but it was ancestral. It was ancestral trauma. Myself and Louis Ramos talk about that. We talk about that a lot. The ancestral trauma and how we're beginning to heal. Because we're expressing ourselves through art, through voice, through song, through dance. We have this event, Taino Award, I mentioned earlier, coming up. Incredible opportunity to see many people in one room gathered. We need more of that. We need more of that unification, unity, and these are the different. One of the things that could bring people together is art.
Right, I agree, definitely.
Art is a big one because it brings people to the galleries, it brings people to the mic, it brings people to the audience, it brings people to listen and to see and be able to be happy to be alive as a Taino. It's a privilege to be here, to be alive today as a Taino and be able to say I'm Taino. I'm proud of it, because somebody like my grandma didn't say that. My grandma hid it for a long time, until she was able to express it to me. And then, I just want to go back and piggyback on that a little bit. My mom and my grandma, they became my biggest advocates over there. Like when I would go back home to Quisqueya and go up to those mountains and we go visiting people and this is one thing right here, the tobacco, the andullo, and cassave and different things that we still do today that we've been doing for hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years. And having my grandma, my mom, you know, telling that person that's making cassava, you know, tú sabes que eso es taíno. And I'm like, yeah, eso es taíno. Lo que tú estás haciendo es indígena. And to have my mom say that, oh man, that is really, you know, then I know that we're doing something right. We're doing something right. You know, my mom first met those Tainos in the Missouri barrio many years ago. She was afraid because of her Catholic upbringing, because of her Christianity. She was afraid of seeing, you know, people with long hair, collares and necklaces and piercings, and she didn't understand. She was afraid. She's like, you need to stay away from these people. You know, like, no, man, you need to keep coming to these people.
Right,
you know?
right.
And, you know, which brings some that, you know, I want to touch on Maisiti, you know, which is the community that I belong to. Maisiti Yucayeke Taino. My mom, at that time, when she first met people from Maisiti, and she told me, stay away from, you know, all these people, just some words that I wouldn't say on camera, you know, describing us,
Right.
you know. The one word she did use was salvaje. She used salvaje, savage. And I was like, oh my God, no, Mom. But going to these gatherings, because she would stay with me in those summers, and we would have different gatherings in people's homes, she would come, and then she started seeing that we're loving families, that we're real people. You know, it's not about this hair and all these necklaces that we wear. You know, that we are good people. We are Taino. We're good people. You know, and she started seeing that in my peers and different people in the circles. And then she started cooking for them. And she started making sancocho and making guanimo and making, you know, all these like different Taino dishes. And she started embracing, you know. And then, like I said, a couple of years go by, and then she's out there parading with me behind, being my cheerleader,
Right.
you know, among the Taino people on the island, you know, when we're doing the DNA testing back in 2002 in Quisqueya, you know, saying, hey, go, make sure you go to that house because that person looks Indian, you know. Esa tiene pelo lazo, esa tiene esa cara, los ojrascos, you know, they have those features. Go test them. And that's what we're doing, you know, we're knocking on doors during that time. But my ICT is a Yucayeke, ICT Yucayeke Taino, that we have been around since 1990, and been established, Yucayeke here. There's many people that are in this Taino resurgence and movement that were once part of my ICT at one time or another. And have, you know, branched off and started their own groups and different organizations. This year we will be celebrating 25 years of being around as a Yucayeke. Sometime in September, which we will send out those invitations and the invites to all Taino people that want to come and join us in that celebration. We plan to have an areito. Myself and my family, we joined my ACT back in like 94, 95, and we have been part of Yucayeke since. The history, you know, if it goes back, started from people like names from Naniki Reyes, and you have Marati Robles, Rafael Yambo, Aponte, the past leaderships, which have been carrying the group for all those years. And then in 2006, the staff was passed on to my family. We're the caretakers of my ICT today since 2006. So it's been 9 years, you know, that we've been holding the fort down and continue to gather. We gather on a monthly basis. We celebrate the solstice and equinoxes. We just had an incredible spring equinox here in my home last weekend, and you know, we try to sing those songs. We try to practice the language. We try to the best of our ability to do everything in honor of our ancestors in a Taino way. The There may be some of us that are involved in different circles that are not Taino. Whether you're a dancer or you play some different type of drum, or because it's something that you like doing, it don't mean that you're not Taino. So when we gather as Maisiti, we bring out all the Taino stuff. Myself, I do practice Northern ways, although I'm kind of slowly phasing away from them. But they are part of my life. They what helped me by going to the powwow, like I was sharing earlier.
Right.
Is what helped me find my people.
Right.
So, I never forget that. I'm not just going to put those brothers aside because now I found my way. So I honor them and I respect them and I do follow their ways. When I play a drum group every now and then, I go jump on the drum. I sing powwow songs. Get to some of the other stuff. I'm involved with the run of Vision Quest. I've done Vision Quest for many years and been on the hill doing my own Vision Quest. And today I help put people out on the hill. I'm doing that in a good way. Go out to South Dakota, out west, every year for Sundance. Bring my Taino teachings with me. They love it. They love to hear about Taino stuff like that. Those Lakota people, they love to hear Taino stories. Every now and then, somebody, some wisecrack Indian will come up and say, "Why'd you guys leave Columbus here? Why didn't you get rid of him?"
Okay.
But they also have their own share of hardships, with the people that came to their lands, So it's really a great journey. I love my journey. I won't turn it around for something else because it is something that I feel on a personal level like, I owe this to my ancestors.
Right.
You know what I mean? To stay connected. Stay connected, be Taino.
Yeah, what I want to ask you, just in closing and wrapping up, because I feel it's important, back at home, when, your parents were coming up, during the time of Trujillo, how was it for them as to not being able to express, their heritage? I am, Taino. This is, my culture. This is who I am.
For my relatives, at that time I was born in 1962. So a lot of it was kind of like going on to the young by then, right? Trujillo had got killed. Forget exactly what year. It was somewhere around that era. My dad was forced to go to the military at that time. So my dad was part of that regime. He wasn't necessarily really proud of it, but it was what they, he got drafted or whatever it was, right? So back at home, you could not really share your Africanism or Tainoism, Taino ways or African ways, because they were looking to whitewash the country. They were looking to change the color of the people. So that's why my grandma always claimed. She claimed that her grandmother, her mom, came from Spain. There was a little white lie in the family. They all told the little white lies in order to protect themselves. So also, as you probably heard before, but it was like a lot of people say to be Taino, to be native, to be claim your person of color was to be less than, right? So so they didn't claim it. And it was interesting that they even my family, some bien trigueñito, mulato, bien indio, in color, very indigenous color, very red, very burnt from being out there working in the farms, and you have some people that were even darker than them. But everybody tried to claim that whatever was white, European bloodline, and today, we still have that today, even after Trujillo. In Boriquen, Quisqueya, and Cuba, and all the Caribbean. You have that. It seems like, when somebody claims the Indian, not cool. But if somebody claims the African, it's cool to the Afrocentric people. If somebody claims, the European bloodline, it's cool to the European people. When somebody claims Taino, it's not cool. I don't understand that. It's something that we are slowly, I say slowly because I always tell people, I feel like today, a Taino resurgence, a Taino movement, Taino people are at the point where we think of a baby and it's processing growing, we're starting to climb up and stand up. Okay? We're not walking yet. Maybe my children's children will be the ones walking. They're the ones that just stood up. With my help I'm crawling. They picked me up. And then we need to continue to lift up the spirits of those young people. Lift up the spirits of the younger generation so they don't have to feel like the way my grandmother felt. Of being ashamed to be Indian, to be Taino. There's no shame in it, man. There's pride, and we need to embrace that. We need to embrace that. So, to answer your question, what they were going through during that time? Hiding, sugarcoating it, and it was all done in a way of, I know in my family, it was done in a way for protection. For some people, it wasn't for protection. For some people, it was a way to erase it because they didn't want to have part of it. Because it was easier to fall to the other side. And but my family are farmers, man. They're up in the mountains. They weren't really they just continue to live, I mean, it took me going there, learning what I learned in the books, to go and share with them that what they were doing was Taino. For them, it was just everyday life. Oh, I saw an Indian. All right, whatever. Let's keep doing it the same way.
Right.
Want to help me? Come help me. But it was it's something that I helped with my family. For example, one day there was Andullo, and all these elders had their little cachimbas, and there's a big piece of Andullo comes out that my uncle brings out, and you had all these people with their little pipes. And it was a brand new piece. Now this tobacco, is aged tobacco. It's not tobacco that's just dried and smoked. It takes a lot of special care to make this andullo. And when it was brought down and smoked for the first time, it was like a privilege, right? To go to my uncle's house and smoke this tobacco. But I told them, I said, look at you all here in a circle. You all gathered in a circle, waiting to approve and smoke this tobacco. I said, what you're doing is indigenous. What you're doing is like a council right here. This is Hibaro way, we want to look at it, but I'm looking at it from a different eye. What you're doing is indigenous. And they're like, oh, okay, well, pica tabaco, we smoke, But, for them, it's a lot of the campesinos, the Jibaros, just how they live their life every day, in and out. For us to go in is good to acknowledge it as native, and everything from, listen, my family from my mother's side, I said I was brought up in a religious family. My grandparents were not religious people. They're spiritual people. They were healers. They were curanderos, working with the tobacco and working with all the plants and herbs of the earth to heal people. They were not really big church-going people, up in that part anyway, where we're from. It was later on, when my mom met my dad, and my grandparents on my father's side, which are kind of like a little mix. You have Taino, and you have some European. The ones that really kind of showed my mother that way, you know, of Christianity.
Right.
She embraced it. She took it like we did, like many of our ancestors did.
Right.
You know, something about religion, I just want to touch on this, is that, all right, our Taino ancestors, when they were told that they couldn't use their means no more, when they were told that they couldn't practice their religious ways, which we had, okay, our religious ways, shamanism and working with the semis, right? We embraced their ways. And we embraced the church, their way of form of prayer, whatever. And I want you to think about something. When you go to a community and you have a church, mostly Catholic religion, but I'll put any religion in there. It could be Pentecostal, Christian, whatever. Okay? If you go to a Latino community, a Latino neighborhood, or maybe where you have mixed people, right? Interracial, you know, very diverse area, like where I grew up, Sunset Park. Right? A lot of churches. There's a church like every 5 blocks away is a church. And you look at which mass has the most people, and you look at which people are really practicing that religion, it's the Taino. It's the people of the country. It's those Jibaros, right? So although we're not practicing our old spiritual ways of religion, we took theirs and practiced it better than they did. You know, you go to the. I don't want to be biased here, okay? But if you go to a different mass of different people, different races or nationalities, you see the difference. You see that if you go to, you know, a Black Baptist church versus a White Baptist church, you see a difference. You go to a white, you know, Catholic mass, and you go to a Latino Catholic mass, you see the difference. And that's something that I follow, but I grew up that way. I've seen it. I've witnessed, you know, I've seen the difference. You know, like, you know, we actually took their ways and embraced it. And, you know, we need to slowly maybe get out of it. I mean, listen, some people are on this red road, whether it be Taino, Native, different Native people, different Native nations. You know, the missionaries have been there for hundreds of years now, changing people over, you know. The important thing is not to forget the spirituality, not to forget the ways, the crafts, the planting, you know, because that's the indigenous. You can never change that with any religion. You can't change the way you plant that corn, the way you plant that yucca, the way you plant the tobacco, the way you harvest it, you know. That's what's true, Taino, right? That's what's true indigenous ways. So although you have people practicing, you know, different religions within the native circles, listen, in my home right here, I have some saints in the corner. I don't practice it, I don't follow them, go to church. Why they're there? Because I told my mom that I would take care of them for her. She could no longer take care of them for herself. So, you know, I'm not just going to throw them out. And I told her I would, you know, I'm fulfilling my commitment of taking care of them for her. So, you know, they're here, they live here, whatever, they're in that corner, you know. Not something I practice, but, you know, it's something my mom still had in her life, you know. And, although, you know, today things are a little different with my family, with her. You know, she's in a nursing home, she no longer talks. You know, but everything she gave me, I hold, you know. My mom, after so many years walking with us in my ICT and coming to these circles, she showed up one day with a luggage full of Taino things for me. And, you know, very precious items that are in this home, you know, that she brought from the island on her own, without even asking for them. So, you know, you can do the same for your family. is don't stop, don't change. You know, we don't need to be Cherokee, be Lakota, you know, be Mohawk, be whatever. You know, Buddhist monks or whatever. You know, just continue to practice and let people know we're still here.
That's powerful.
Let people know that we're still here. Let people know that we have never left. Let people know what Taino is. You know, and there's some things that we've changed throughout the years. You know, if I remember correctly, Britannica Encyclopedia, which many people don't use today because you have online and you have internet. But once said that Tainos were extinct, and it now says Tainos, indigenous people under an umbrella in the Caribbean struggling to maintain and preserve their culture. So we're making a little jumps. What we need to do is get more of these type of language books in the shelves, in the schools. We need to do presentations. We need to do more of these videos. We need to educate. We need to educate our youth, our old timers, and ourselves. We need to educate the people that we're still here. And that's my message. We're still here. We never left. We are not extinct.
That's powerful. And with that, I want to say give thanks, to taking the time to be in your home and just to be able to have this this dialogue with you.
Well, Peter, thank you, brother. You're doing a great job and continue what you're doing. I know we've been trying to do this for months. Finally the weather broke. So I know you'll be out there now with your camera,
right,
making waves. And
right.
Look forward to continue to work with you. However I can help, you out, or any of the youth out there. It's our duty. It's our duty to do so as people that have been around doing this for a little bit, to continue to pass it on. Don't just keep it and not share it. We need to continue to have workshops and teaching and language and dance and song and areto. We need to have more aretos. I think I do.
All right. So until next time.
Yeah.
All right.